Welcome to this Coffee with the Editor. It's quite an important one considering the momentum that's being gained with Transnet's open access and the 11 TOCs that will soon be joining the railway network here in South Africa. I think just for a refresher for our audience, I think let's start with the Lease Co and Transnet Engineering's involvement in the Lease Co before we start the process of where you are to date.
We're trying to establish a leasing platform which is going to be a private entity, wherein Transnet is pulling in a private company which will bring in capital, and we will bring in rolling stock assets as our equity. And how we're going to package ourselves is that Transnet will bring in rolling stock, which is our surplus assets, as well as our engineering capabilities. And therein comes TE. TE is, as you can see around us, this is our biggest engineering depot. TE is our biggest OEM, if I can confidently say, probably in SADC. I would like to say in the Sub-Sahara, but I want to speak with confidence and absolute facts. And their capabilities from a manufacturing, a refurbishment, a maintenance point of view. So it makes sense that we bring them in as the anchor technical partner into the transaction. Now, we're not expecting the partners not to have those capabilities, but if you look at their footprint, not only in South Africa, but in the region as well, it just makes sense that we bring them on board, as well as the location of the depots along the rail corridors as well. It would make absolute commercial sense that we bring them in. So that's how we're positioning ourselves. We're not positioning ourselves as Transnet and then T on the side. We are saying in this transaction as Transnet, this is how we're coming in. We're coming in with assets, and these are our technical capabilities with Transnet Engineering.
All right, so you've just been through a whole procurement process. You obviously have bidders that have now come out the other side. How many bidders?
So we got a very good response. I must say I was pleasantly surprised. We got about 14, and out of that we came out with 2 successfully out of stage 1. So those are the bidders now that will be engaging into stage 2, which is the RFP stage. The biggest hurdle that we've had to jump is obviously the assessment of the assets that we're taking into the transaction, because they have a value attached to them. They're a very important cog in the transaction. We also had to clean up house in terms of our state of readiness from a TE perspective. That work is done. We are clear how we're going to position TE. We are clear where the strength lies. We are clear in terms of where the weaknesses lie and how we then prep ourselves from that perspective. It's a high value tender, so we have a lot of governance structures that we need to go through.
Because time is marching on now.
100%.
Hey, open access is around the corner per se. You have 11 TOCs, a couple when we last spoke, and per the Mining and Java interview that you did, there's about 3 or 4 companies already engaged with you. What's the status there?
The way we looked at this, if we waited for the transaction to reach financial close, we would be late in terms of responding to the rail reform. So what we did, we started what we call tactical leases. So in as far as the TOCs were coming to us looking for these assets, and in as far as we have the assets, we started responding. So when we spoke to you at the Indaba, we had signed 3 contracts. We've just signed our 4th one. So we've contracted for just under 2,000 wagons. And I mean, we have about 3-4 other conversations that are going on in parallel. We have a demand of about 12,000 wagons. And on the locomotive side, I can't give you the absolute number, but that's also in the region of about 60 plus. The locomotives are slightly different from the wagons because it's a different animal altogether from its configuration and the cost of refurbishing. The order book is looking good. It's how we then service these TOCs, because they also have to raise the funding, not only from the point of accessing the network, but from the point of rating themselves, from the rolling stock point of view, and then just rating themselves for operations in general. And that's proving to be quite difficult for them as well.
I just want to get an outline of the assets that are available. So how many wagons do we have? How many locomotives do you have?
It's a fluid number, if I may put it that way. I mean, what we put out in the, and pardon me for not giving you the absolute numbers, because these are the figures that are going to go into my RFP. And I'd like to have that conversation with the bidders first. So what is known in the public domain is that we went into the market with 21,000 wagons and 1,000 locomotives. We've gone through a very rigorous exercise. We've gone through the length and breadth of this country looking for those assets. And we've discounted some because they have to be scrapped. But we are clear that we have to solve for the delta. So whatever we haven't found, we have to replace. And we are now in that process. And what we've found to be absolutely amazing, it is not the scrap that people deemed it to be. The use of the term B is a misnomer. These are surplus assets. I think the challenge was the ability to service them and they get parked. But for all intents and purposes, we are finding assets that are ready to be used. It's just a case of either a minor or a major maintenance that is required. So up until next week, we'll have a sense of, in total, how many need to be scrapped and what the delta looks like. And we're hoping that by the time we go to the RFP, we'll be as close as we possibly can. And what we are finding, the demand from the TOCs is for bulk wagons. There's not many to go around, I'll be honest with you, because the bulk of those are sitting with our biggest TOC, which is TFR. There's a lot of flatbeds that are being asked for. There's a lot of tankers that are being asked for fuel, both domestically as well as across the border. But what is coming through nicely, and we have a bulk of that, is the flatbeds, because you can also containerize some of the mining minerals, by the way. So that's going around quite nicely.
We've spoken about, quite thoroughly about the TOCs coming on board, but I really do believe there is more to be done with our neighbours.
It's actually quite amazing. That's how Lease Co was actually conceptualized. When we were solving for the decline in volumes on the north-south corridor, bidirectionally, coming northbound and southbound, we're seeing 50-50. The request for the rolling stock is coming from both South Africa as well as outside of South Africa. And as such, we're signing with TOCs outside of the country. We're looking at mining outfits. We're looking for train operating companies that are servicing product owners. Mm-hmm. Again, they're asking for the same thing. They're asking for bulk wagons, they're asking for fuel tankers, they're asking for flatbeds. It's the same kind of wagons. So we're quite excited. And we've got about two, hopefully we sign them soon enough, that are servicing quite big mining entities in Zimbabwe. And it's across the SADC. In fact, we were in Botswana on Wednesday, and they're asking for 2 diesel locomotives that could actually solve a long-standing problem for one of their customers. It is amazing how these surplus assets are going to solve long-standing problems by just bringing to life assets that just needed capital injection.
And I think that's the main issue here, because when we look at our continent, or should we just say South Africa or Southern Africa, and anywhere there's a Cape gauge and rolling stock, I think the biggest issue is railway operators being able to maintain and keep their fleet, which is already aging, going. In the run-up and lead time to Lease Co and the development of Lease Co and up to this point, I think you've also had the opportunity to see what new demand there will be coming forward. And you kind of have an idea of what you have in terms of locomotives and rollings and wagons. Are you going to have to procure new?
100%.
And when? When are you going to start that process?
We certainly don't know, but I think what we have now, we think it's just about enough to get us started. We don't want to encumber ourselves with idle assets. So why we're doing tactical leases is that by the time we reach financial closure with the partner, these assets must be encumbered in contracts, right? And then we will play by ear in terms of the demand. Because remember, what we are building is a Pan-Africa leasing platform. So then we'll make a determination in terms of what the demand looks like. Because the reason we're going for a partner is not just for capital. We're looking for new markets as well, right? So we don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. We just want to get this one sorted off the ground, look at what the demand looks like. Can we service the 250 that the million tons that the minister has given us as a target? And then we look at where are the, you know, the opportunities? Where is our, call it blue oceans market? And we start fishing. But certainly we will be looking for new builds. This was just to get us started.
And I think I want to close on something that might be becoming a statement, you know, like leave no one behind, leave no cargo behind. I think is starting to get a little bit of traction, excuse the pun. What does that mean in practical terms for Lease Co?
So what that means for me as a person is that, like I did this morning, I made a call to somebody who initially, when they reached out to us looking for locomotives, I didn't have these locomotives. But when a decision was recently taken, as recent as this week, I called them literally at 6 a.m. and I said, I now have what you are looking for. That's what it means to say leave no customer behind, no cargo behind. Because if we are really to succeed in the rail migration from road to rail, that's what it means. You will have to, business is not going to come to us. That world is long over for Transnet. We're no longer the big Spartacus. Like everyone else, we have to hunt for business, right? But I also find it exciting. Isn't it exciting?
It is exciting.
I find it absolutely exciting. And my guys also know that the turnaround times must equally be quick, because nobody's going to wait for me to respond to their request that they sent 3 months ago, right? So the survival of Transnet lies in our agility, our speed to respond to the customer's needs. It is the survival of this country. It's the jobs that are going to be created. I don't know, but I've been with this organization for 6 years. I just hope that it will still be standing in 50 years' time for my grandkids to say, my grandmother started Lease Co. I mean, you see on Facebook people saying, my grandfather used to drive the blue train, right? Yeah. Forget what happened in the past. Can we start talking about what South Africa and what Transnet would look like in 50 years' time? It's my job to build that foundation, and it has to be a firm foundation. So true, we're not in the business of leaving cargo behind. We're not in the business of leaving money on the table. We're not in the business of looking at a customer and saying, too small for me. Every single customer counts.
It really is a rail renaissance happening here in South Africa, and for Africa for that matter. So I look forward to watching this with keen interest, documenting all the progress, because I too want my grandchildren to go say, my mommy wrote that article.